And in today's episode, we are talking about what they don't tell you about being that girl.
We want what we want, but we want it quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I want that, but I've become obsessed about it because deep down, I'll never get it because the benchmark for it is always moving.
If you get the Stanley Cup, you've made it. If you've had your avocado on toast between these times, you've made it. If you've had your, iced cup of matcha latte, something, insert very long coffee name here, you are that girl.
As soon as you conquer the 6 a.m, now there's the 5 a.m. I've been seeing 3 a.m. routines.
3?
Listen to me, beloved.
3?
It could never be I.
But this idea that this instant access and overexposure to so many lives is really resulting in a bland generation. We all want to look the same. We all want to sound the same. We all want to have the same routines. I can't count how many morning routines that follow the same formulaic steps.
It's no longer just about personal growth and wanting to be better. It really is about, I want my life to look a particular way.
It prevents you from enjoying things in the present.
The it girl is you if you just decide to focus on you.
Hello and welcome to the To My Sisters podcast. I'm Renee.
And I'm Courtney, and we are your online sisters and hosts of the To My Sisters podcast.
Now, we are all about promoting the wellness, growth and development of a community of sisters across the world.
And in today's episode, we are talking about what they don't tell you about being that girl.
Oh no.
You've seen the trends.
Oh no.
You've seen the YouTube videos.
Oh no.
Hashtag it girl. Hashtag that girl. Hashtag I am her.
Whoa.
Yes. That one is the real Pepper.
No, that one was I am her.
Yeah. But what is the truth behind
her.
all of these personas of being that girl? Let's talk about hyperproductivity. Let's talk about the pressure to always be glowing up. Let's talk about grace and sustainability.
Gosh.
Let's talk about it all.
Let's go. I'm excited.
Today on what the hell is going on? No, but for real, let's talk about these personas, that girl, it girl, her. Why do you think we see the rise of these trends?
Oh gosh.
From time to time.
From time to time. First of all, we love trends.
We do.
We actually really love trends. And I think that it's nice to have something to subscribe to. I think it really is a question of vision as well, right? It's something that we see often, and it's aesthetics are nice. They appeal to our senses. It makes us happy to see these aesthetics that we can now aspire to through, a whole bunch of means, but also capitalism. A lot of people start bringing out trends and all sorts of things because it exploits people. Maybe that's not necessarily their intention, especially from the lens of content creators, but a lot of these brands that are really putting money behind that girl content, they know that they're going to be exploiting a deep need or a deep insecurity or deep desire that a lot of women have to be hip and trending. And there's perks to being in the spotlight. There's perks to being in the limelight. There's perks to being liked and desired. So it's not a coincidence that we're seeing the rise in trendy stuff, the rise in this, that girl, it's girl, especially because it is basically giving the message to women that to become popular, to become liked and desirable, these are the 10 things that you need to do. It makes it easy. We love trends that are easy. If there's one thing about, not even just women, but people in general, they like things, we like snake oil. We like the idea that hard things or perfect things can be obtained easily. And I think that's actually one of the first traps of the that girl, the it girl persona. It's not even just that it's an image of perfection, but we also think that the glow up process to get there is also easy. It's as easy as purchasing these 5 things. It's as easy as adhering to this schedule. It's as easy as this reel that has taken 30 seconds for me to watch, that I'll be able to master my entire morning routine and become the perfect vision of the that girl. It creates the idea that these things are worth having and they're easy to have. And those are 2 questions that we actually have to ask ourselves as consumers and as women. First and foremost, is this actually what I want for myself? Because I personally believe that the that girl or the it girl needs to be uniquely individual to us.
Absolutely.
Who is the that girl in your life? The it girl. It is the best version of you according to you and your values, not according to some, a broad conception of what the that girl should be, right? It's who is the best version of Courtney according to Courtney? Who's the best version of Renee according to Renee? And then in terms of actually getting there, realistic and sustainable steps to get there. Too many of us think that we can have a lot of things quickly. And I think that's really the fundamental problem of this generation. We want what we want, but we want it quickly. If you get the Stanley Cup, you've made it. If you've had your avocado on toast between these times, you've made it. If you've had your, iced cup of matcha latte, something, insert very long coffee name here, you are that girl. And I think that it denies women the opportunity to really sit down and say, this is what I want for myself. And this is the process through which I'm going to go through to actually get it. And I think also, man, I know this is a conversation that a lot of folks have been having on the internet recently, but this idea that this instant access and overexposure to so many lives is really resulting in a bland generation. We all want to look the same. We all want to sound the same. We all want to have the same routines. I can't count how many morning routines that follow the same formulaic steps. And this is not to say that these things don't work. Do you know what? They work for quite a few people, but it's not everyone that it's going to work for. It's not everyone that has, the luxury of being able to wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning and go through their, 10-step morning routine. There are some people that, their parents, it's just not going to be realistic in the season that they're in. It's not everybody that's even going to be able to afford the various 15 supplements that this person or this creator takes in the morning to become that girl, for their skin or whatever. It's not realistic. But I think for women, that girl should be the best version of you according to you. And this can be like the things that we see on the internet can be inspiration.
Absolutely.
And they can be aspirational, but it can't become an idol. And I think that's where I sometimes find some trouble with that girl or the it girl as it has arisen. I see why it's become popular. It makes perfect total sense and it's exciting. And it's also really good content. It appeals to our senses. But I do think that we have to exercise care. A bit of a rant, but what do you think about that?
No, I think that was good. I think that definitely hits the nail on the head. And I think there's a flip side to that as well around these aesthetics that arise, which they're unattainable. And sometimes it's, yes, I want that, but I become obsessed about it because deep down I'll never get it because the benchmark for it is always moving. Like, as soon as you conquer the 6 a.m., now there's the 5 a.m. I've been seeing 3 a.m. routines.
3?
Listen to me, beloved.
3?
It could never be I. No. So it's stuff like that. It's like the benchmark is constantly moving where what is the definition of an it girl? It's whatever is popular and unattainable at that time. Just because it's popular doesn't mean it's common, right? Okay, it's popular to desire it, but most people don't have it. It's the Stanley Cups, it's the nice clothes, it's what's in fashion now, it's trends, like you said, and we really do love trends as a people. I also think it's that key part of it about being an aesthetic. Like it's no longer just about, personal growth and wanting to be better. It really is about, I want my life to look a particular way, and I don't really care whether that way is healthy. I don't really care how I get that image. I just get there. And I have the image of the thing. So I think it's sometimes encouraging women to be quite surface level. But also I love what you said about uniqueness. And I always talk about how a lot of women never discover their uniqueness. They never discover what they like, what they want to give to the world that's unique to them, and fall in love with their personality as well. And I think that girl of every generation is so similar to that girl of the last. Like she's rarely ever that different. And I think we need to be careful with that because, like you said, anyone can be that girl. That girl is who you consider that girl to be and who you want to become. And it's challenging when you're constantly comparing yourself to the new in trend, that girl, it girl, when actually the it girl is you if you just decide to focus on you. Right? To focus on you and to be you. And I think this also leads to a bigger trend that we have within society, which is personal growth and personal development. We love it as an industry. It's a very lucrative industry, like literally billions and billions, probably even trillions, go into people working on themselves, from supplements to diet pills to books to journals to literally everything, right? Where people are to courses, ebooks and the likes, where people are trying to learn how to be better. We have this obsession with better all the time. And I genuinely think there is a huge trap to this constant cycle of self-improvement that we have within our society. And I think that's one of the biggest, what nobody tells you about being that girl, always being on this hamster wheel of self-improvement. Talk to me about that and our obsession with it.
We're obsessed. It's too much, entirely too much. And I get where it comes from. I think we're now in a generation where we have the tools to make a difference to our lives. Now more than ever before, the tools of self-improvement or the tools for you to change your life are more accessible, right? Back in the day, like access to books, for example, and literacy and all of that kind of stuff was really, really tough. We're seeing the democratization of information. And so it's not a surprise that a lot of people have the desire to make the most out of it. It's okay, cool. I want to have the best body. Now I have access to a whole bunch of things that I probably wouldn't have had access to in the last generation. Of course, I'm going to do that. Wow. Oh my gosh. All of these books on self-improvement and growth mindset. I now have access to these things. Of course, I'm going to take my opportunity to try and make myself a better person, to be able to access a whole bunch of capital and wealth and whatnot and lift my family from whatever so and forth is the argument. I think that access or even the overloading of information that a lot of people have, there's the need to make the most of it because it's so accessible. And it's very easy to see where that has come from. And I think, do you know what? It's a beautiful thing that people want to improve themselves. I think the desire for self-improvement or the desire to be somebody that is striving towards perfection inherently isn't a bad thing. But like most things, when you take it to the extreme, that's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
Suddenly, your life is all about improvement rather than presence. Suddenly, it's all about how quickly can I get to the next high? How quickly can I get to the next level? How quickly can I be validated by me running through these hoops and getting to the end, only to be thrown back onto the hamster wheel to the next best thing? And I think there is a restless nature that comes as a result of being bought into self-improvement, right? You're always looking for the next best thing to change about yourself, to transform. And it makes me think of, I can't remember the name of the tech entrepreneur that sold his business and is currently trying to evade death.
Yeah. I can't remember his name either, but I know.
I might begin with a B. Anyways, but for context for those listening, there's a guy who was it PayPal? No, it wasn't PayPal. He sold a massive tech company, got a huge payout from it, and he was able to use a lot of that funding into self-improvement, personal growth, all of that kind of good stuff. But his aim is to reverse the aging process. So he has been doing a whole bunch of really expensive experiments to find out what is the perfect way to live, what is the perfect, supplements to have, what is, literally the perfect life to have to try and defy the aging process. The problem with that is you look at his life, at least for me and quite a few people in the comments, and you realize, your life has become obsessed with this one particular goal of defying the aging process to the point that it has so affected your capacity to enjoy any other part of your life. And I think that's where we need to be careful. The trap of self-improvement and personal growth is it prevents you from enjoying things in the present, and it sucks out the joy of being in a season because you're constantly looking at the next season. You're constantly, and it even causes you to despise where you're at right now. I think that as beautiful as it is to want to be a better person, I think if you're constantly focusing on the better person that actually doesn't exist yet, you're denying yourself the important work of accepting who you are right now. Like actually sitting with and being present with who you are right now, present in your relationships. You're constantly thinking about this mythical person that doesn't exist, and you're idolizing the person that doesn't exist as well. And oftentimes it can get to a place where you actually have low self-esteem, and your esteem is found in how much you can improve yourself, right? I don't think I'm going to be worthy of love until I've improved to this particular level. I don't think I'm going to be worthy of any kind of relationship. Even like when we think about dating coaches, etc., a lot of people who seek out that kind of advice in the extremes don't believe that they're worthy of a healthy kind of love until they have improved to the point of, I don't even know where it gets to its extremes, right? And then you start to deny yourself actually getting into relationships with people, entertaining conversations with people from the opposite sex, because you believe that in order to access this dream life, this dream person, you have to get to this particular level, not realizing that you could be missing out on blessings all around you right now because you're so hyper fixated on your goal.
Yeah.
You're missing out on the blessings that are in your midst. So I think that's a huge trap of the self-improvement cycle, the self-improvement wheel. It takes your focus, especially in the extremes, it takes your focus and attention off of the things in the present that you could really be enjoying, you could find joy in and happiness, investing in things in the now. Of course, there needs to be a balance, but you really start to idolize the person that you're not and only start to think that your worth, self-esteem and value can be found once you've attained a particular level. So much so that you despise the things around you, the people around you, and even who you are right now. Yeah, that's a big thing when it comes to the whole self-improvement thing.
Yeah,
but what do you think?
That's so good. I completely agree. I think it's interesting actually that you bring up that guy, because every time that guy pops up on my feed, I'm like, you still look old. Like, you've done all this work. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to be rude.
No, because you just say with everybody. And I've seen some comments that said that. I'm like, y'all bold. You guys are
I'm
bold.
not trying to be rude.
No, it's not rude. It's an observation.
I don't know that bad.
You look like your age. You look like your age.
But you look
okay.
like your age. Like, and that's okay. And I think to myself, okay, all this money, energy, and effort,
bro,
you have put into not looking your age. You can't defeat the inevitable. You're going to age. And the thing about aging is there are probably some people who are his age who look younger than him and haven't even done a quarter of all the stuff that he's done. And the reason why I say this is, especially when it comes to the it girl thing, so many people try to do so much to become something they will never be.
Right.
You have to become who you were made to be. And you should embrace, like you said, the season that you're actually in, because I'm sure, Mr. Man, I don't know if you're doing this for the sake of science, so you can be a contributor to the Canada body of work.
No, stop.
However, if you had taken a lot of the money you spent on all of this stuff to do other things, your legacy wouldn't be that you're on the internet fighting age and still looking old. Your legacy would be, I helped to find the cure to, I helped, and it's not today. Like I said, I don't know this man. I haven't read his entire repertoire of work. He might have done amazing things. But no, the reason why I'm saying this is we spend so much money on superficial cosmetic things, which actually don't matter. No one cares that you look old. We've seen many old people with wrinkles before. We're not afraid. So what are you fighting and what are you running for? It reveals, and it's a word that you said earlier, it reveals an idol in your life. You've idolized youth so much and you're craving a past season, which you'll never gain back. And also, who's to say that the best years of your life are culminated by you looking youthful? Now, like you said, most of your life is consumed with you doing stuff to keep this appearance of youth. But what use?
So what end?
What use is it to you right now? And also, is being old that bad? Like, it goes to show our culture's obsession with certain things, which actually don't matter. Like, aging is a part of us.
It's a normal
thing. We will age and we will die. He is not Benjamin Button. Like, and someone has to tell him that.
They've been trying
Someone has to tell him.
They've been trying to.
It's okay. And I think, and it brings up another thing for me, which is for a lot of us, this whole buying into the it girl aesthetic is us really running away from a fear. We're running away from an insecurity. We're running away from something which tells us deep down, I'm not good enough. Like, the reason why I need to push myself to wake up at 5 a.m., even if it just naturally doesn't work for me and I'm a night owl, is because I won't be seen as a virtuous woman if I'm not up at the crack of dawn. Who told you that that is synonymous with virtue?
And who's even seeing you?
Like,
do you know what I mean?
But that's the performative nature of it, right? You will make sure people see. That's why this man is making 1 million YouTube videos. And there are so many YouTube videos where you propped up your camera trying to fake, oh, guys,
just waking up.
Oh, so who put the camera there?
Do you know, that's been my favorite content, when people are like taking the pee out of people. It's like,
because it's
to put the camera.
It's performative, so I can fake waking up again, you know? And these times, it's actually 3 p.m. Like, we don't know the truth.
You could listen.
We don't know the truth. And so I think it's stuff like that where actually a lot of us are pursuing that girl from the aesthetic trendy side of it.
Yeah.
Because we're insecure about something in our lives and we feel like we have something to prove.
Facts.
And that fulfilling this trend will prove that actually we're not lazy.
Yeah.
Or actually I am worthy of a good relationship or whatever it is. And it's like, ooh, all this work for zilch?
You know, you actually get nothing out of it at the end.
Nothing, you know? And I also think it defers happiness to a future point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, I'll be happy when actually you can be happy in. Like you said, you don't have to be perfect before you get a good relationship. We need to be careful that we don't think you have to fully heal, you have to fully be perfect before you can enter into a good, healthy relationship. You can actually heal in the healthy relationship. You can do the hard work in the relationship. Yeah. You don't need to defer your joy and your happiness to a future point of perfection, which may never come, before you can start partaking in joyful things and happy things. It's okay to be learning on the way and through things. And so, yeah, that's why the whole like it girl constant self-improvement cycle can be so dangerous, because it's quite obsessive.
It is.
It's quite obsessive. It's quite addictive is what I'm trying to say.
Very specific too.
And we need to be very, very careful. And I think another angle of what people don't tell you about this whole being that girl and being an it girl is the hyperproductivity part of it, right? Where it's like, babe, like I said, with these 3 a.m. morning routines, now I don't know your lifestyle. You might be like, your work starts at 7 a.m. So it makes sense why you need to wake up at 3 a.m. to get everything done. That's completely fine. But what you doing in the evening?
You better be asleep. You better be asleep too.
You know, so I think it's also asking ourselves, am I just doing too much? Are these trends encouraging me to do too much that I like more than I humanly actually need to do? What do you think about the hyperproductivity element of it?
I think we need to stop squishing. We're almost squeezing our days like lemons. We are trying to get the juice out of every single waking hour. We are trying to make sure we're not wasting our time by making sure that every single moment is worth it, that we are doing the work, that we are doing something productive. All of our waking hours are not for productivity. No. They're not for productivity. And I think culture, society, social media, the constant onness of everything makes people feel as though they should be doing something productive. No, it's actually okay to do nothing. We need to normalize again doing nothing. Our ancestors, they were not hunting 24/7. They had to rest, gain their strength, and then there was a time to go and hunt. I think we need to bring that back. Maybe not the hunting, because it was a different time period. But we do need to bring back a semblance of there is a time for everything. Even says it in the word, there's a time for everything. And it's not everything that we do in an allocated time. Yeah. It's not everything that we have to do in every single hour. It's actually okay to block out some time to not do. Yeah. And I think it comes with, again, the constant onness. I think it comes with the pressure to keep up appearances of a perfect life. And it just so happens that our culture upholds hyperproductivity and what you can produce as indicative of value. That's good. We are associating how much we can achieve, how much we can work, what we can, make as indicative of how worthy we are. Which is why it is no surprise that there's so many people that are overworking. They need to prove their worth. They need to demonstrate that they're doing something. They need to post that, 9, 10, 11 p.m. on Instagram to say they're still working, but they're going to wake up at 3 a.m. They feel a need to, because that's where their worth comes from. It's the time, the hyperproductivity, hyper anything, or the extremities of anything points to an idol in your life. Whatever you take to the extreme points to some kind of insecurity that you have. And so hyperproductivity to me points to the fact that you are insecure in your worth around work. Work has now become the idol. Productivity has become the idol. You need to constantly produce as a means of, securing your sense of identity. And for a lot of women, but also men, to be honest with you, our whole identity has become work. Our whole oh my gosh, you will open up TikTok or not TikTok, because there's too many unserious people there, which is great. But
There may be serious people
there are some serious, maybe it's just my algorithm, but I open up Instagram, I see this person has done 10 million different things in one day. And I'm like, how is this even possible? And the danger in those kind of things is now you've seen someone and they become your yardstick.
Mm-hmm.
You see another person, you scroll, it's like, wow, like, do we all have the same 24 hours?
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me think of that time that I think it was Kim Kardashian that got caught out and she was like, you just need to be hardworking. We all have the same 24 hours. And it's like, no, babe, you actually have a whole bunch of things that I don't currently have, which makes it easier for you to do certain things in your 24 hours. And I think there's also an element of that. Many of us we're being conditioned and tricked into hyperproductivity, not knowing that the forerunners of hyperproductivity have certain privileges or things that they don't always disclose, right? So a lot of folks that may be talking about like, this is what I do in a day, but they don't disclose the fact that they have a whole team behind them that's helping them to produce something, is quite deceptive. But as a consumer of that content, you would be thinking, wow, my day needs to look exactly like this, even though I don't have the resources to make that happen. Or we will see certain products or, finished products of anybody's life and assume, wow, my life needs to look like this, not realizing that in order for your life to look like that, you also need to have the things that they have to make it happen. Mm-hmm. And so we find ourselves in this tension or this really interesting juxtaposition of, I'm aspiring to this life, and yet I haven't acknowledged the fact that I don't got what they got. And yes, you can aspire to it. And yes, you can, do significant work in order to acquire some of the resources that they do have. But you also have to recognize that you need to get to a certain point before that's even possible in the first place. Take, for example, this podcast. Love this podcast. Amazing. When we first started, we was doing it all by ourselves. Mm-hmm. But in terms of now where we're at, we have an incredible team that we also work with. And it could be easy to look at our podcast and think, wow, I want to make sure I'm maximizing my time. I want to make sure that I'm producing this perfectly polished podcast just like they do. Yeah, sure, you can do that. But also acknowledge the fact that this is not a product of hyper productivity. This is actually a product of us being sustainably systems focused. Mm-hmm. There's a difference. And you can trick yourself into thinking that you need to achieve something and produce something without the means to produce it. Yeah. And I think that's where the problem comes. There's that mismatching of, I actually don't have what they have to be able to produce what they're producing. And so, which is why it's so important for us to outline, okay, cool. What are actually my goals? What is actually attainable within my life right now? What can I do without violating my own boundaries, without having to overproduce? What can I do to produce something that's actually in line with my values and what I believe that I'm called to do, without burning myself out, trying to keep up with the Joneses, not realizing that the Joneses have access to 10 million different things that I don't have. Yeah. And it's actually okay if you don't have it, like it's fine. Listen, I know we often say, cut your clothes according to your size, but genuinely, there's levels to it and it's good to aspire, but don't burn yourself out and literally burn yourself trying to produce something at a particularly higher level. If you actually don't have access to the means to do it right now, it's actually okay. And so I think our relationship with hyperproductivity is realizing there's a season for everything. There's a time for everything, but not everything needs to be fit into the same time. Yeah. And then it's realizing that, okay, cool, there may be aspirations and things that you see that you want in your life, but we often don't get the full context of what people have to be able to produce what they have at that level. And if you don't have it at that level, okay, cool, let's make a sustainable plan to get to that kind of place, as opposed to thinking that you can go from A to Z tomorrow. It's a journey, it's a process, and you don't have to burn yourself in the process to make it happen.
Yeah, I love that.
So that's my thoughts on hyperproductivity.
I really love that. I really love that. And I think what you said in the beginning about rest in itself is productive. Regeneration happens in rest. Yeah. Reproduction happens in rest. We allow ourselves to replenish when we rest. And so the key to sustainable productivity, not hyper performance, but sustainable performance, productivity, and showing up how you want to, is rest. If you do not rest, you're going to have a problem. Like you said, you're going to burn out. that candle is gonna sizzle all the way to the bottom and you have no gas, no wax, nothing to keep it going. And you're gonna wish you had taken time to refuel. So I think it's important to see rest in itself as productive by having a good understanding of what it means to have productive rest, right? Like not all rest is just lounging about, doing nothing, even though sometimes that's the best kind of rest. That's not always resting. Sometimes you need to rest in community. You need to rest in the Lord. Sometimes resting does look like working, but it's restful work. It's, okay, I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to read a book. And I think it's seeing our lives as worthy of slowing down enough to be able to do these things which replenish us. Like replenishment is so important. And I think sometimes we don't have an emphasis enough on it. We have an emphasis on productivity, reward, but what about replenishment? What about the part of you that is replenished after you give, after you work, after there is that burst of output? What do you do to replenish the lost energy? I don't think enough of us structure our lives around key moments of replenishment, especially when you think about your week, right? The weekend sometimes is not enough to replenish you, especially because that's when we're catching up with people. That's when we have to do the cleaning, the laundry, the this, the that. Like if you got kids, child, your weekend is not your own. You're at other kids' parties, just taking your kid around on a tour. Like it's a lot of work. When do you take time to replenish? Because it will be only a matter of time before the gas in the engine runs out. So I really love that. And I love another thing you emphasize as well. And I think it's key, especially as we're talking about embracing our seasons this year. Every season requires a new level of, or a different level of productivity. There are some seasons which are purely 90% rest. I'm just resting and regaining my strength, especially if you're coming out of a busy season or you're about to go into a busy season. And then there are some seasons where it's like, no, this is my window of opportunity to really, things are aligning. I need to work on my career. I need to send in those proposals. I need to grind and get that sponsorships. I need to show up and show out. I need to work on this project at work because the deadline is impending. You know, it's all of these things that say this is the season to work. And sometimes you do kick into hyper productivity mode. And we're not saying that that's a bad thing. Well, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's not bad to work and work a lot. It's not bad to have a high output. What is bad is an unending season of output or deceiving yourself into thinking a lifestyle of consistent hyper output is possible. It's not. It's not. And I love that you brought up sustainability because that's the last place I wanted to pivot this conversation. When we think about grace and sustainability, sometimes in becoming that girl, we don't share it enough. I do see some balanced conversations, like you're going to need to give yourself grace. You're going to need to be patient, but I don't think it's emphasized enough. But I would love for us to talk about what people don't tell you about giving yourself grace. Because I think it's very easy to say, give yourself grace, be patient. Rome wasn't built in a day and you need to build sustainably. But like, sometimes building sustainably is frustrating. Really sometimes needing grace is hard, right? So how do we deal with the reality of, oh, I need grace. I need to start building sustainably and feeling like that's slowing you down?
That's a really good question. Dealing with needing grace. I think recognizing that it is hard for you first and foremost, and that resonates with me a lot because I'm someone that struggled with needing grace, especially when you've become used to a certain output and a certain pacing. So it does feel like in the moments that you do like need grace, it's like, oh, the pace has changed here. I have to slow down, but I'm doing so well, the output, all of that kind of stuff. It's recognizing that oftentimes if you've noticed that you need grace, it means that if you keep on going and you continue, you're going to crash. So the conviction of needing grace is actually an indicator that it's actually time to slow down before something goes wrong.
That's good.
And it's reframing that, right? It's not you're slowing down, but it's more so this is a pit stop because you're about to burn out. This is a pit stop. I think of like in motorsport, they have pit stops where they change tires, where they do important internal as well as external work so that the car can keep moving. So reframing needing grace or needing pauses or needing rest is actually fundamental to your capacity to go, as opposed to something that slows you down, is really, really important. And seeing it as an opportunity to actually refuel as well. I think sometimes it can be very difficult when you are used to being a go-getter to recognize the signs in your body, your behavior, your spirit that you actually need to be filled up again. Sometimes you can be running for so long and you've become so acclimatized to running at a particular like output or whatnot, you forget that, oh, right, I need to take like something to help me to overcome the next leg, right? So I think reframing it as not just something that you need because, oh man, I'm going to slow down, and like it's actually an indicator that you're about to crash. And this is your opportunity to refuel. This is your opportunity to make sure everything is good with you before you start running again. And reckoning with the fact that you too are human. I think sometimes it's a tough pill to swallow, but there is a lot of pride that is wrapped up in the assumption that you can just keep going.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pride, and it's hard to conceive of yourself as a prideful person. I think we have archetypes of, oh, that prideful, that haughty person. It's obvious to spot somebody that's prideful. But internal pride, that is something that's difficult to contend with, because man, sometimes it's only you that can spot it. And sometimes it's between you and your maker, and you asking the Lord, look, shine a light on my pride. He'll be like, oh, that one right there.
Yeah.
And so normalizing going through that deep level of introspection and normalizing having to sit with the darker parts of your personality or your character, that whilst you have made the best of intentions, may not be the best of intentions as you once assumed.
That's good.
I think we need people that recognize that they need grace and can sit with it are humble people. And I think there is a humility issue in that you haven't humbled yourself enough to think that you're somebody that needs grace and help. And you need help. You're a human. And it's hard. Trust me, I've been there, still working on it. I'm like, of me, I don't need. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
You need help. You need grace. You need these things to function well. In order for you to get to the highest place of productivity, oftentimes comes with you recognizing you at the lowest of the low. It makes me think of the people that like climb mountains, for example. When you're at the bottom and you see the top, you're like, wow, this is really, really long. It's those people that eventually get to the top and they look down, they realize, wow, I've really overcome, or like I've really been climbing really, really high. But it's only because they've actually experienced the lowest of the low that they can appreciate the highest of the high. And I would urge anybody that's like, oh, you know, I'm struggling with like needing grace and slowing down. I need you to look back down. You've come really far. And you were saying in one of our other episodes, the importance of like celebrating yourself and celebrating each step. Knowing that you've actually done well so far. You've done so well. And this opportunity for you to take a pit stop and, you know, fill up on your grace is also an opportunity for you to celebrate how far you've come. You've done really well. Like you've been scaling a mountain. Like zoom out a little bit and stop focusing so much on going, that you've forgotten just how far you've come. And because you've come so far, in order for you to continue, you're going to have to stop at this juncture here. So I think recognizing, I've come really, really far. Let me stop here so I can continue to go and finish well. Like it's the same for marathon runners. Like oftentimes a lot of marathon runners actually have to stop. Their overall pace, because a lot of marathon runners, they're chasing, I want to get this pace, you know, I want to run X amount of 42 kilometers and this pace, whatever, don't realize that there are some opportunities for them to stop so that they continue to run faster. And heaven knows that you might actually pick up the pace later on because you've stopped now. So rather than dragging your feet, dragging on, stop, take a pit stop, refuel, take what you need, take your water, take your gels, whatever, and then be better in order to do better later on. So I really do think there is a bit of reframing around how you see yourself. There's a bit of awkward unlearning that needs to be done. And I think a lot of self-awareness and humbling, because it is a humbling thing to recognize that you need grace. It's a humbling thing. And I think in order for us to do well in this life and to live a sustainable life, we have to be humble. And we have to recognize where our pride has preceded us, even in things like productivity. In fact, I think productivity is one of the places that our pride can really, it will just be running unchecked and running amok. We have to check ourselves. Like, what am I working out of? Am I working out of someone that's, been energized, I've rested, I've spent time abiding, or am I working out of fear? Am I working from a place of, I don't think that I have the capacity to stop, because if I stop, then my value is under threat, really inspecting, okay, where am I working from? And for those that are, again, struggling with the concept of needing grace, I would ask you, where are you working from? Because it's only those who work from rest, those who work from a place of love, that would be able to recognize that they need grace.
That's good.
So yeah, that's what I would say, friend. But I would love to hear what you would think around.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think with hyperproductivity, it's very easy to forget that, like you said, you have to question the motivation behind your work and why you're kicking yourself into this space. And I was talking about it earlier about insecurity and stuff like that. But I think one thing that we neglect, especially about hyper performance, is it can breed hypercriticism. You can become extremely self-critical about yourself. Like, you missed your alarm one day. Oh my God, I'm not good enough. I can't do it. That's my goal's this, my goal's that. And it's this obsession with perfection. Like, we can so idolize ourselves and think, how could I be capable of such a failure? Why not? And I was talking about this at an event, actually, where we were talking about respecting the boundaries of our humanity. And I was saying how a lot of us don't extend ourselves mercy, but God does. God extends you mercy. And what you're doing by being merciless or hypercritical towards yourself is telling God, I cannot be changed by the mercy you're showing me. I will change by my own determination. I don't need your grace to change. I can do it according to my own flesh. That's not true. And that's why grace and mercy was extended to you in the first place. If God looks at you and knows, I know you're going to fall. And I've already made provision for the failure. And you're just like, how could I have failed? And you stay in that place. Get over it. You're a human. You have a flesh. You failed. It's all right. Don't let it take this huge knock to your inner identity. Like, how could I be capable of such horrendous sin and bad things and breaking of these habits? Why not? Since when did you become the savior, honey?
Oh, that part.
You need one.
That part.
And that's okay. Like, it's okay to be in that posture of, oh, thank God you saved me. Thank God you forgive. Thank you, Jesus, that you send mercy and you send grace, because God knows I need it.
Oh, boy.
I don't have the strength. And I always call on that scripture that Paul writes around, his strength is made perfect in my weakness. So I boast in my weaknesses. It's okay as a girl who's on the journey, being that girl, to also say, I don't get everything right. I don't do this perfectly every day. I struggle a lot of the time. Or maybe I don't, but I'm a human too, and it's also important for us as viewers and purveyors of these things to not idolize people just because they're getting it right. Because they never told you they're perfect. They never told you to make them the standard either. And it can be really, really crushing when you look up to somebody and then you realize, oh, maybe they're not as perfect as I thought. Or maybe, like you said, the whole context surrounding their life is very different to mine, so I can never be them anyway. It's really, really painful. And so I think we need to be careful of catching those idols in our hearts and also thinking that failure is beneath us, right? And it's not to humble women and be like, oh, you can never become this perfect version of yourself. But I think even that shows an idol of our culture. Like I said, this idol of perfection, this idol of superhumanness. You will never be a deity. I'm sorry. Like, I'm actually so sorry. You will never be a deity. As much as God lives inside of you, you are limited by this thing called flesh. Do you get what I mean? The whole reason why they could kill Jesus, despite the fact he was God, was because he was wrapped in this human limitation. It talks about how Jesus had to humble himself, as you were talking about humility. He had to humble himself to take on flesh, which means as long as we're in this flesh, there is a humility we're going to have to accept, which is we are limited beings. If I throw myself off a building now, if it's not for God's intervention, my limitation will be revealed.
Oh boy, real quick.
It will be revealed. And a lot of us fight our humanity because we hate it. But there's something divine about your humanity, which is that it is reliant on a divine God who is superhuman, right? And so when we find our strength in him, that's when, you know, that cliche, the super meets the human. But you have to be a human. You have to recognize your humanity for supernatural, superhuman things to step into your life, right? Nobody calls a superhero unless they were once just a person. And then suddenly they encountered a spider bite, or they encountered some kind of elixir that has now made them different to everybody else. But there is that marker of differentiation, or that demarcation of you were once something, now you're something else. You have to embrace the humble part of your story. And some of us are in it now. As much as you're pursuing personal growth, maybe this is your season of, damn, I want to be that girl so bad, but I'm struggling with this whole waking up early. I really don't like it. Or like, I really want to be a gym girly, but I don't like going to the gym.
I don't.
You know, and embracing that part of you and saying, okay, so then what does me being an it girl look like to me? Because it doesn't look like me violating my humanity. It doesn't look like me violating my boundaries. It doesn't look like me trying to be someone I am not. And it also doesn't look like me trying to be superhuman, because that's not what I'm called to be. I'm actually called to be a dependent human being on a supernatural God.
Come on now.
And that's where my specialness comes from, right? And so I think in your it girl aesthetic, integrate in there dependency on the Lord, because that's really the it girl superpower for me, man. Like, child, the thing that just sets me apart is Jesus.
Courtney, when he bro. Oh gosh,
I will always testify of my Lord.
The way you did that there.
When I am in right standing with Jesus and I feel it, I shine, baby. Shine, Jesus.
Shine. Man.
No, the reason why I say that though is because genuinely I know for myself that in times where I feel like I'm a great speaker, there are some times I sit on a panel, I'm like, God, I have nothing to say.
I've got nothing. I
have nothing to give people. There's nothing eloquent that can come from my mouth. And it's me having this relationship with the God who always has something to say.
Always got
and being like, hey, speak. You know, God, like speak to your people through me. And then I'll say something. I'm like, God, that was even for me. Woo. Catch it.
Yeah, catch it.
You know, like that's crazy. That to me is, and then people come up to you like, oh my God, I want to be just like you.
No, you don't.
You don't. The only thing I can tell you to be is a person who desires to be with Jesus.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. It's like, earlier, Vanessa was asking like, how do you guys speak like that? Where's the wisdom? Like, all you can ask for is the Holy Spirit. Or like, you don't need to think like me. You don't need to act like me. You don't need my routine. You don't need my reading list.
Yeah.
You need the Holy Ghost. You need the thing that helps me to be this great thing that you see. Because what you're seeing isn't me. What you're seeing is glory. And if you desire to have glory, go to the glorious one, not me. I can give you all of that stuff, but then you'll be trying to drink all these elixirs, trying not to age, looking crazy. That's what I'm going to say on the matter.
God needed to leave that man.
No, because I think it's such a perfect example. Like I said, no offense to that man. I hope you have a great time with your family and stuff. But like,
drinking all them green
realistically, is it working for you? No. Is it something that could be prescribed to others without results? Probably not. And that's how sometimes we deal with our favorite influencers. Like, this person is doing X, Y, Z. You don't know whether they're actually producing good fruit in their life. So why are you replicating this?
It just so happens that in that case, we've seen the fruit that's being produced and
clock it.
You don't want it.
So yeah, that's what I would say. I would just say, drop the hypercriticism and embrace the grace that's been extended to you. That's if you are a person of faith anyway.
And if you're not, you should be.
I would highly recommend. I think it's been, as somebody who is overcoming perfectionism or has overcome perfectionism by God's grace and like just has had that inner critic and that voice be so loud, I definitely think embracing God's voice towards me has allowed me to embrace, I don't have to constantly act. So I was going to say something wild, but like, I'm not a slave. Like, I actually don't have to be working all the time. I can rest. I can actually rest. And I can trust that God will do things for me. And I can trust, and I always use this, not analogy, but this reality. When you go to sleep, you don't know what's happening in the world around you, but somehow you trust that you'll wake up and nothing would have gone haywire, you know? And that's how we should do our lives. Like, God, as I'm resting, even as there's this temptation to work and be hyper productive, I'm trusting that you're working on my behalf. That's how I approach my life, and things work out.
They do.
Things work out. So yeah, that's what I'd have to say. I think there's so much more to this truth behind the It Girl aesthetic, from the spiritual point of view to also the commercial point of view, and the actual commercial and corporate and capitalist mechanisms and machines that are working behind pumping out these trends. So let us know what you think in the comments. Share some thoughts, experiences, and just put your 2 pence on this situation. It will be great to hear, ladies. You can drop a comment on YouTube or something on Spotify, or come over to our Instagram or anywhere on social media and let us know what you think at To My Sisterhood, literally on every platform. And you can also follow us individually. You can follow my lovely friend over here at Renee Kapuku, and you can follow me at CD Boating.
Also, if you want to get weekly glowing and growing tips, you should sign up to our mailing list over at www.tomysisters.com, so you never miss a beat every single week. Sisters, we adore you, and we pray that you have an excellent week ahead. We will meet you back here Sunday, 8 p.m. GMT, BST. One of the times we'll see you there. But until then, as always, keep glowing and
growing.